Hello, everyone, and welcome to Disrupt Health Tech. I am your host, Wendy Austin. In today's episode, I'll be talking about how DiRx Health is disrupting the traditional way of getting your prescriptions. With me is Satish Srinivasan, who is the founder and CEO of DiRx Inc., the first digital pharmacy corporation with a direct from manufacturer sourcing model, which is available in the US. Satish previously spent 25 plus years in building and managing multiple U.S. generic pharmaceutical firms and businesses in leadership positions, including as the president and CEO of Rising Pharmaceuticals and president and CEO of OrchidPharma Inc. Welcome, Satish, to Disrupt Health Tech.
Thank you, Wendy. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's start with how DiRx Health has been recognized by Everyday Health, Forbes, and Fast Company as a leader in healthcare innovation. Can you tell me what DiRx is doing different from other pharmacy stores?
Well, most pharmacies, as we know it, are following kind of the traditional and the predominant model that's existed for a while, which is they source products from the wholesalers, and 99% of their business is based on insurance reimbursement. By the time it goes through all of these supply chain events, the cost of the product gets inflated because of the number of intermediaries, both from the supply chain side as well as the payer side. And everybody has to make money, and so the cost of the product expands.
Yeah.
While that is fine if everybody in the country had great insurance and could afford their out-of-pocket costs, unfortunately, that's not the reality. More than 40% of Americans are inadequately insured, between uninsured and the underinsured parts of the population. So for them, these products, which are supposed to be affordable, become very unaffordable because of all the system-driven inflation. So what we've done differently is we've skipped the drug wholesalers. There's 3 of them that control about 95% of generic prescription sourcing in the entire country. And we've skipped the traditional PBMs, or the pharmacy benefit managers, who administer the pharmacy benefits portion of the insurance programs. By skipping these 2 giant pieces of the transaction, we've become the pharmacy. We've created the pharmacy that is licensed to ship products to all 50 states in the country. And we're building it all on a digital model. We've kind of simplified the process. We directly source from the manufacturer, so that gets us access to low pricing. And then we ship it as a pharmacy to all consumers across the United States. So by eliminating 2 of the big pieces of the supply chain, all those cost savings are transferred back to the system, and we are able to enable much lower prices for prescriptions to the average American consumer.
Wow, 40% is actually quite a high number. I'm kind of shocked by that number.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty high. We have about 13% are being completely uninsured, and that number is growing because of the expanding gig economy as well. They're all part-timers without, insurance benefits. And then you also have, a significant portion of the underinsured. These are people with insurance, but very high deductibles and high copays. So there's a lot of out-of-pocket costs.
So how do you think your online pharmacy model will affect the overall pharmacy and pharmaceutical industry?
In terms of the pharmacy piece of it, where we provide medications to the consumers, it's going to end up in lower prices. In fact, we've made it so simple that these are very transparent cash prices that people can see. We don't accept any insurance, and we offer significant savings. So not only on our own website, we are present on other consumer websites like GoodRx, for example, where over 40 million Americans go to check cash prices of medications. And we are a very active vendor on those kinds of platforms. So through a variety of these platforms, consumers can check their, the best available, the lowest prices for the medications they need, and we'd show up on those. Similarly, we're also on many of the newly emerging pricing transparency platforms, even in the large group side with employer groups, broker platforms, provider platforms, and the like. So every quarter we are getting listed, and we're getting integrated with many of these. So more and more people will get to see our prices transparently and figure out if that's the best choice for them.
Oh,
So
very
making drugs more affordable and accessible to the common consumer, that's one advantage. On the other part of the question, because our volumes are lower, we're not like the giant wholesaler companies.
good.
Obviously, we're buying lower volume, but we do keep the transaction very simple for manufacturers as well. Typically, because of the reimbursement model, they have a lot of rebates and chargebacks and complex accounting to deal with. We don't put them through any of that. We actually pay them a slight premium compared to what the drug wholesalers do and keep it a very transparent net price, so it's easier for everybody. So it improves their margins slightly. It delivers great pricing for the consumers, and there is enough margin for us as well, just because we are removing two of the big pieces in the supply chain that the traditional pharmacy distribution supply chain would encounter.
Oh, very good. That's actually really nice. So that means everybody's getting a win in this situation.
That's right.
All right. So I'm sure there are some people that are wondering about the safety of the medications in this new online pharmacy model. And there might be some people that think, the system can be abused and get drugs without having a doctor's prescription. Are you able to speak to this?
Absolutely. So we are a legitimately licensed pharmacy with the pharmacy boards of every single state in the country. So we are like any other pharmacy. If you were going to walk into your neighborhood pharmacy, whether it be one of the big chains or an independent pharmacy, it's the same licensing regulations that we are subjected to. And the sourcing of the product are from the same manufacturers that any regular, large name pharmacy chain that you would walk into. We all get it from the same sources. Every product is FDA approved and legitimately, supplied within the country. So it has to be FDA approved. We
Yeah.
are fully licensed to ship to each state. So we are unlike some of those pharmacies across the border, whether in Canada or Mexico or elsewhere, where some of them may kind of operate in a gray area.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't. We are fully compliant with all US regulations and all state pharmacy board regulations. And the product is sourced from the same sources as anybody else. And we cannot ship any product without a valid prescription from a US licensed prescriber.
Right. Okay,
And,
good.
and, and as part of our digital platform, we are part of the prescription gateway through which any licensed prescriber in the country can send us a script electronically.
Oh, very
So
nice.
we follow the same rules that any other pharmacy does, and we're not in any way, trying to be like some of the across the border pharmacies.
Okay. I think I forgot to ask you, but is this available directly? So, me as a consumer, can I go directly to your website and give you my prescription, maybe transfer it from a different pharmacy to yours?
Absolutely, yes. So that's a direct-to-consumer platform. When you go to our website, you can see it. You can access it from any mobile device or desktop, or just call us toll-free if you're not digitally savvy.
Yeah.
So we have all of those options. And yes, you as a consumer can go check out the pricing of the product that you need and, click that, select, 30, 60, 90 days. We generally encourage 90 days because that's what helps
Right.
us lower the cost even more. And then the options are, tell us who your prescriber is and tell your prescriber to send it to us because they can find us on their system. Or if your current prescription and refills are at some other pharmacy, you have an option to click and say, hey, here's where it is. Please contact the pharmacy and transfer it. So there are 3 or 4 options, just like any other pharmacy. And then our pharmacy team will execute that as required by you.
Oh, very nice. Very good. All right. So, you said earlier that DiRx doesn't take health insurance payments. Can you explain how you made that decision on why not to accept insurance?
Well, as I explained earlier, a part of the issues, the part of the reason why costs are becoming prohibitively expensive is because of the number of intermediaries involved.
Yeah.
So, one part of it is the supply chain intermediaries, such as the big 3 wholesalers, but the other part are the large PBMs that control the transaction of the reimbursement and all of that. So while that is a problem, as I said earlier, if over 40% of Americans do not have adequate insurance,
Yeah.
why force them through a PBM? Because they don't have proper insurance anyway.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that, then a cash pay model is simpler, easier. And the surprising part is, even for people with adequate insurance, for a lot of them, our cash prices may be lower than the copay, depending on what kind of a plan they have. So it's not just uninsured and underinsured, while that's kind of the primary target that we're trying to help. We do know that there are many sufficiently insured people also trying to use our services, because our cash prices may be lower than the copay that if they use their insurance.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
So even if I wanted it to go through my insurance, you don't accept insurance payments. Is that correct?
we do not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Let me ask a slightly different question. If I'm a policymaker in the government at any level, is there anything that you'd like to say to them regarding online pharmacies like DiRx Health?
Yeah, a couple things maybe. Traditionally, when the industry talks about mail order, it's a very small segment. It's what is controlled by the large PBMs. They determine which drugs can be shipped by mail order in 90-day supplies or 180-day supplies and so on. They restrict you. Sometimes, I'm sure it has happened to everybody, you go to your retail pharmacy locally and they say, hey, here's my prescription, or you have the doctor send it, and they'll plug in something into the computer to look up your insurance, and they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, your insurance does not allow this here, or you have to get it from their mail order division and all that. So they
Yeah.
call the shots on what you can and can't get by mail order. But that's because they are playing the whole reimbursement model out, and how much makes them more money is what
Right.
the driving
Right.
force is. So we would like lawmakers and others to understand that there can be a model in mail order that's not just following the traditional pattern. Here the emphasis is on more transparency, lower prices, and making it more accessible and affordable. So it's kind of a different breed of an online pharmacy. The other part of it is it's also cost saving, because if we were to open local brick and mortar centers in many states,
Yeah.
that is going to also make us incur a lot of cost.
Yeah.
So it's all about how do we keep it very simple, centralized, but still get it to people in any corner of the country. So that's
Yeah.
one piece I would like them to understand. Do not club it with the regular mail order definition that's been determined by the large players in the industry thus far. The other part is, I think we need to relook at pricing across the country and to anything to do with healthcare. Nobody is today looking at what is the real cost of a product or a service, and then
Right.
what can they price it at. It's always reimbursement minus, it's not cost plus. So they're
Yeah.
like, okay, if the reimbursement rate is $2,000 and I give them a 20% rebate, what does that? Okay, that knocks off $400, give me $1,600. But the actual thing may not be even worth 800. So
Yeah.
just because you're looking at an artificially high reimbursement benchmark, you think you're saving something, whereas the system is actually paying a lot more for something that costs a lot less.
Yeah.
A very simple example, and I'm sure you and many others, viewing this podcast might have encountered. If you go to your local retail pharmacy, or even you go to the doctor's office and you show them your insurance card, and they'll say, okay, that'll be $60. If you ask them how much if I pay cash, in many instances, you'll be surprised that you may have to pay half of that number for the same
Yeah.
product or the same service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that? Because there is no PBM involved, and paperwork and documentation, administration costs of all those big processes involved. The real cost of the product is way lower. So if our lawmakers understand that, there could be, and I understand there are very expensive drugs. There's biotech products, there's cancer molecules. These are all expensive intrinsically, but there is still a system-driven cost that's pushing things up quite a bit, that we can save on together as a country.
Yeah. Very good. So what's next for DiRx Health?
Oh, that is a very exciting question, and we're looking at many things. So what we've started off is the basic model. How do we disrupt the supply chain, and hence the cost levels and the pricing and the way we price it? So we've done a very good proof of concept. We have a large number of registered folks across the country who are now engaged with us. They've subscribed to our newsletters, and many of them have become paying customers. And every month and every quarter, we are receiving more customers, more orders, and so on. That's happening already. Where we are currently focusing on as our next immediate phase of growth is going into large B2B groups, as we call it. We're working with several parts of the healthcare system that are catering to the self-funded employer groups.
Yes.
2/3 of all employers who are paying for health insurance and healthcare costs of their employees have now moved to self-funded plans. And they're looking at how do we save money. So on the prescription side of it, we are trying to make a difference. So we are working with many of those transparency-seeking providers. It could be even doctors. There are direct primary care clinics that have come up now that don't accept insurance. There are virtual primary care platforms where 24/7 large groups of employees can go see the doctor through telehealth, and we could be the integrated pharmacy at the back end. We're working with rare disease foundations to help their members access and afford products that are otherwise super expensive.
Yeah.
So there's many, many layers that we're going after. And probably by next year, we're looking at, not even next year, I'd say by the end of the year, we're looking at some interesting telehealth integrations. There are even some specialty and branded product manufacturers who've now started talking to us. So we do see in a very, very near term, in the next couple months, we will be launching some special deals on certain specialty and branded medications as well, and rethinking the supply chain and how can you switch from a reimbursement model to a cash-based model, even to certain large companies. And they've started to see the math that it could even improve their margins while delivering a lower cost product to the end consumer.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And at the bottom of your screen, you'll see information about how you can go to either the Disrupt Health Tech site or DiRxHealth.com to actually learn more. All right, thank you so much today, Satish.
Yeah, thank you so much for you to take the time, and I love chatting with you, and let's stay in touch. I really appreciate you having me on your podcast.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to Disrupt Health Tech. We hope you found our conversation today inspiring and informative. Remember, the key to success is using technology in an innovative way to improve healthcare experiences and patient outcomes. So keep a lookout for ways to challenge the status quo and keep innovating. See you next episode.